The death toll in the blast that rocked Beirut's southern suburb of Dahiya on Thursday has risen to 24, according to the Red Cross. It also states that over 300 people were wounded. Caretaker Interior Minister Marwan Sharbil said that the video camera footage is being studied to find the attacker and determine whether it was a suicide bomber that carried out the attack. The blast went off on the public road between Bir al-Abed and Ruwais. And a group calling itself the Brigades of Aisha al-Mu'mineen claimed the bombing in a YouTube video and threatened further attacks over Hezbollah's involvement in the fighting in Syria. This comes a day after Hezbollah chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah claimed responsibility for a bomb that injured 4 Israelis on the border. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon strongly condemns the explosion that targeted the neighborhood of Ruwais in the southern Beirut area. The UN chief spokesman said in a statement that during this period of heightened tensions, the Secretary General urges all Lebanese to remain united, to rally around their state institutions, and to focus on safeguarding Lebanon's security and stability. The members of the UN Security Council strongly condemned the attack in Beirut's southern Dahiya and urged all Lebanese parties to respect Lebanon's policy of dissociation and to refrain from any involvement in the Syrian crisis, consistent with their commitment in the Babda Declaration. And on the local front, caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati declares this Friday a day of national mourning for the victims of the blast that hit Beirut's suburb, noting that the Higher Defense Council is convening to discuss the incident. He said that the real solution lies in sitting together around the dialogue table without preconditions in order to salvage the country. According to the statement released, Mikati also held contacts with caretaker Interior Minister Marwan Sharbil and the chiefs of security agencies to follow up on the repercussions of the bombing and the outcome of the ongoing investigations. For his part, Prime Minister-designate Taman Salam condemned the attack as barbaric, urging the Lebanese citizens and political forces to show solidarity and national unity. In our studios, political analyst Carol Malouf joins us to discuss the incident. Carol, nice. It's good to have you here.
Thanks. Thank you.
Carol, this is the second bomb of its kind in 40 days, although this one has caused far more damage. On July 9th, a booby-trapped car exploded, leaving 53 people wounded. And many local authorities, including President Michel Sleiman, are quick to blame Israel. Has it become Lebanon's scapegoat?
Well, Israel is an enemy of Lebanon, that's for sure. However, if you look at the events prior to Hezbollah's involvement in Syria, Israel was the only declared enemy of Hezbollah and the Lebanese state. Soon after, when Hezbollah started getting involved in the Syrian affairs, we started hearing different fingers being blamed at different parties. So today Hezbollah has more than one enemy, unfortunately, and those are the repercussions of their involvement in Syria. They have the enemy in Israel, which is a long-term enemy of the Lebanese state, but today they have also cultivated a different type of enemy in Syria, which is the Syrian opposition, and we have seen many YouTube videos from different factions of the Syrian opposition calling on different acts of retaliation against Hezbollah's involvement in Syria, and also Hezbollah has a lot of opponents internally. So unfortunately today we find that Hezbollah is looking at more than one enemy, and they're pointing the finger in more than one direction.
Speaking at opponents internally, there's been a lot of talk about this being able to evoke sectarian strife. Do you think there could be a civil war, or sectarian tensions are already very high?
I wouldn't rule out the possibility of a downward hill, a spiral downwards towards sectarian, full-blown out sectarian conflict. However, today the leadership and the parties in the country are still a little bit aware of the dangers of falling into a full-blown out sectarian political rhetoric. But yes, I mean, the country is, the security of the country is
non-existent.
is breached at all levels. There is a caretaker government that is unable to handle security at all levels. The borders are open on the Syrian front to and from Syria, which also need to be handled. We have 600,000 Syrian refugees in Lebanon wandering freely. It's an all-out security situation that is really worrying.
According to the UN, there are over 1 million refugees right now for 4 million people. And I know, speaking of government and caretaker government, Lebanon today remains without a government. And I know this morning you were in a meeting with the Prime Minister-designate Tamam Salam as well as President Michel Sleiman. What are they saying about this?
Prime Minister-designate Tamam Salam, and we saw it today, and we also met with the President a few days back. They are both trying to push for a government of technocrats, or a government that is not politically aligned, because the problem is, if you go today and form a government that is politically aligned, will bring all the political problems to the executive body. What we need to do today is have an executive body actually govern outside the bickering and the rambling and the problems that the political parties are having amongst each other. We need an administration that will take care of people's daily demands. They look after the security and the daily chores and the economy.
Why is it taking so long to form a government?
They both hinted to they needed their key ally, which is Walid Jumblat, to be able to move forward with the formation of a technocratic government. So we hope that we know that Mr. Jumblat yesterday, after the bombing, went back to changing his mind and calling for a unity government, which would include all the parties. However, we hope that he would listen to the voice of reason and really look into the to the general well-being of the country by forming a government of technocrats. That would be the best solution.
Did the Prime Minister designate hint when approximately? I know there's been talk about nothing happening in August, but maybe in September, a possible formation of government. And how would the formation of government help the current situation right now? Because there's been promise of more bombings.
That's true, and it's interesting that you point the bombings, because he was very clear that every time they were close in the last four months since he was designated to form a government of technocrats, or a government not from the political parties, a certain security breach would take place. So whether it was Abra or the bombs or the firing of the missiles to Abda and so on and so forth. So every time there is an impediment, and the impediment comes in the form of a security breach every single time. So it takes them, every time they walk one step forward, it takes them 10 steps backwards. They were not clear about the timing of forming such a government. But again, I would say their key ally is Mr. Walid Jumblat, and I think they would work on that now to bring him back to the table.
And Carol, I want to end on one thing. Every time that a bomb like this hits any political party, the whole nation bears the consequences and the repercussions of lives lost, of damage incurred. And I want to know, what is the message, instead of these parties, you as a political analyst, instead of these parties bickering at each other, what is the message of unity that all the international community is trying to sell to Lebanon? What can we do as political analysts? What is your advice for this country in terms of that?
That's a good question. As Lebanese, we need to rise up above all this sectarian tension and the hate speeches and the political messages that are the negative messages that are moving us away from each other. We need to find a political rhetoric that would bring us close to each other. I think the Abda Declaration was a rallying point where all the parties before Hezbollah's involvement in Syria had agreed to keep Lebanon neutral from the regional conflict, and mainly from Syria. We have to go back to that Abda Declaration, go back to the political rhetoric where we all unite together against what is happening, because everybody would be affected. I would like to also pay my sincerest condolences to the families of the victims who fell yesterday, and it's really tragic, and it has affected every one of us.